The studio lights were warm, almost forgiving, washing the set in that familiar daytime glow meant to soften every edge. The audience had been primed for laughter, for an easy conversation that would float neatly between commercial breaks. Jenna Bush Hager walked out to applause that felt genuine, even affectionate. She waved, her smile practiced but not fake, the kind honed by years of public life where warmth was both armor and obligation. Kelly Clarkson greeted her with a hug that lingered just long enough to sell chemistry to the cameras. On the surface, everything was perfect. The conversation started exactly where everyone expected it to. Books, morning routines, life in the public eye, safe ground. Jenna spoke calmly, confidently, her words measured, her tone friendly. Kelly chimed in with jokes, her signature mix of humor and relatability, tossing in anecdotes that kept the audience laughing. For the first few minutes, it was smooth, almost scripted in how effortlessly it flowed. But beneath that ease, there was a subtle shift. It came when Kelly referenced a comment Jenna had allegedly made in a recent interview, something about manufactured authenticity in modern media. Kelly laughed as she repeated it, framing it as a light jab, even playfully asking, "Were you talking about shows like this?" The audience chuckled on cue. Jenna's smile faltered, not dramatically, not enough for most people to notice at first. But it did. She let out a small laugh of her own, a fraction of a second too late, then tilted her head. "That's not exactly what I said," she replied, her voice still gentle, still friendly. She clarified her point, choosing her words carefully, redirecting the conversation without challenging Kelly outright. Kelly nodded, but instead of moving on, she doubled down. "I mean, come on," she said with a grin. "We all polish things a bit, right?" The band played a light riff. The audience laughed again. This time, Jenna didn't laugh with them. She straightened slightly in her chair, crossing her ankles, placing her hands together in her lap, a posture that signaled composure, not discomfort. "Polish is one thing," she said. "Being misrepresented is another." Her tone wasn't sharp, but it carried weight. The laughter thinned, turning uncertain. A producer off to the side raised an eyebrow. Another glanced at a monitor, fingers hovering over a clipboard. Kelly sensed the shift and tried to lighten it. Okay, she said, raising her hands. No misrepresentation intended. She smiled again, but it didn't quite reach her eyes this time. "We are just having fun." Jenna held her gaze. "Fun is great," she replied. "As long as it's mutual." That was the moment the room changed. The air felt tighter, like the seconds before a storm breaks. The audience went quiet, unsure whether to clap, laugh, or stay still. The band fell silent, waiting for a cue that didn't come. Cameras continued to roll, capturing every micro-expression, every breath. Kelly leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "Are you saying this isn't mutual?" she asked, her voice still calm but firmer now. The playful host energy had slipped, replaced by something more defensive. Jenna inhaled slowly. "I'm saying," she began, choosing her words with precision, "that when I come on a show like this, I expect a conversation, not a setup." She paused, especially when the topic touches credibility. There it was. The word hung in the air, heavy and unmistakable. A murmur rippled through the audience. Somewhere offstage, someone whispered, "Careful." Kelly's smile faded completely. She straightened, her posture mirroring Jenna's composure. "We don't set people up here," she said. "That's not how we do things." "I'm glad to hear that," Jenna replied evenly. "Because that's how it felt." For a split second, no one spoke. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, lingering in a wide shot instead of cutting to close-ups, as if unsure where to look. Kelly let out a short breath and laughed, once. "Wow," she said. "Okay." She glanced toward the audience, searching for support, then back to Jenna. "This feels a little intense for daytime TV." Jenna nodded. "It does," she agreed. "Which is why I tried to redirect earlier." Her voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it now. "I don't believe in smiling through discomfort just to keep things light." That line landed harder than anyone expected. The producer in the wings made a subtle hand signal, the universal sign for wrap it up. Another producer leaned toward a headset, whispering urgently. The band leader shifted in his seat, waiting for instructions. Kelly's jaw tightened. "No one asked you to smile through discomfort," she said. "But calling out the show while you're on it is sometimes necessary," Jenna interrupted, still polite, still composed. "Especially when silence would mean agreement." The interruption was small, but unmistakable. The audience gasped softly, a collective see that moment rippling through the seats. Kelly sat back, crossing her arms. The warmth that defined her on-screen persona had cooled into something distant. "We are live," she said, glancing at the camera. "And we need to keep this moving." Jenna looked straight ahead, then turned slightly toward the camera as well. "Then let me be clear," she said. "I respect this platform. I respect the audience. But I also respect myself." A beat. Another. The silence stretched long enough to feel uncomfortable, long enough that someone in the control room whispered, "Cut to break," but the cue didn't come fast enough. Kelly stood. The movement was abrupt, decisive. Chairs scraped softly against the floor. "We are going to take a break," she announced, her voice professional but cold. She nodded once, not to the audience, but toward Jenna, an unmistakable signal that the conversation, at least as far as she was concerned, was over. The music began to play, a fraction of a second too early, clashing with the tension still thick in the air. The audience clapped automatically, uncertainly, their applause uneven and hesitant. Jenna remained seated for a moment longer, absorbing the reality of what had just happened. Then she stood, gathered her notes, and offered the audience a composed, almost solemn look. "Thank you for listening," she said quietly. Whether to the crowd, the camera, or herself, no one could quite tell. As she turned toward the wings, a producer stepped forward, gentle but firm, guiding her off stage. The cameras cut away, but the damage was already done. Backstage, doors would close softly. Statements would be drafted. Clips would spread like wildfire. But out on the set, under those warm studio lights, one chair now sat empty, and the easy illusion of daytime television had cracked wide open. The moment Jenna disappeared behind the curtain, the studio felt oddly hollow, like a soundstage after the crew has gone home. Kelly remained standing for a beat longer than necessary, her hands resting on the back of her chair, eyes fixed on the spot where Jenna had exited. The applause faded into an awkward hush, and the band leader glanced toward the control room, waiting for direction that didn't immediately come. "Okay," Kelly said finally, exhaling and forcing a small smile as the cameras rolled again. "We'll be right back." The words were automatic, muscle memory kicking in, but the warmth was gone. When the red light blinked off, she turned sharply toward the producers, her expression tight. "What just happened?" she asked, not loudly, but with an edge that cut through the air. Backstage, Jenna walked down the corridor flanked by two producers who kept their voices low and their steps quick. The walls were lined with framed photos of past guests, smiling faces frozen in curated moments of joy. Jenna barely glanced at them. Her heart was still pounding, not with regret, but with the aftershock of speaking plainly in a space that thrived on smooth edges. One producer cleared his throat. "We are going to have to ask you to leave the building for now," he said carefully, as if each word had been rehearsed. "Network decision." Jenna nodded. "I understand," she replied. And she did. She'd spent her life in rooms where decorum mattered more than honesty, where the unspoken rules were just as binding as written ones. Still, there was a sting to being escorted out, not angry, not humiliated, just resolute. She handed over her MIC pack, thanked the crew member who took it, and picked up her coat. Meanwhile, in the green room adjacent to the stage, Kelly paced. A producer spoke rapidly, outlining damage control plans, extended commercial break, reshuffled segment, a musical performance moved up